Hello and welcome back YouTube. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today I'd like to review the completed city of Glacial Streams. This city was built between Halloween and Christmas of 2021 and as a city that participated in the building on the same map event, the Winter Chill. The same map event is an event run by Board Builder, a Twitch streamer on PlayStation 4. There's a handful of vanilla and console Twitch builders who get together and build the same map to see how each city turns out. And it's interesting to see how each builder builds their city. Of course, you can open up different areas in a map. I mean, I think there's 25 area tiles, and of course you can only open up 9. So that gives you some variety, as well as even though you may open up the same 9 area tiles, doesn't mean necessarily the city is going to be the same, obviously. It could be completely different. So let's jump into the first tile, or like I always call the starter tile. And as you notice right away, the highway entrance, I ended up moving. I actually took a gamble on that. I just didn't like where it was lining up as far as where the highway entrance starts to the left there. And I decided to go and build that trumpet interchange and move it more towards the middle. I did that right off the bat, spent money doing that, using 2-lane residential roads. And it ended up, of course, obviously working out for me. And here's our first neighborhood. It's kind of a mixed area with some mixed density, as well as tucked up against this mountain here. We have, I would say, a really nice, wealthy area where the houses are like 4x4 zone blocks with a lot of space and trees in between them. It's very much modeled after a neighborhood that's down the street from where I live. We used wind power in the beginning for our power, and right near our windmills we put our first water feature coming in, waterfall coming down through our first area. And here we got our nice wooden bridge, and with some Park Life DLC assets running along kind of our commercial area. Down through the roundabout and out under the highway and meeting up with the, let's say, the main river here. And of course we got a lot of biking, and you can see the kind of the cable car coming through. Go ahead and take a look at the commercial area. We have our natural reserve park kind of buffering between our commercial and residential area, giving us a little bit of money and acting as a nice like sound barrier or natural barrier between the two. We use Modern City to kind of provide a building that kind of stands out, as well as we got this nice 4-lane road. And this is an example of what I really come to enjoy doing, is building kind of like my main roads, my 4-lane, 6-lane roads in such a way that I don't zone on them. It gives you the opportunity to, decorate them, make them just look real pretty, and kind of make them turn and curve, go up and down. And like I said, this looks really nice, like a nice express road that comes through. We got a nice little, kind of like little cabins tucked in here, and this is European suburbia next to the prison. Like I said, tucked up against the mountain, and here's a European suburbia. It's a high density European area. Also like a little bit higher density, kind of like a bigger, more focused apartment complex, buffered by our, our another kind of main road that comes through here around our industry area. And of course you can see our prison, which this area was once our industry area. We actually had all 4 industry DLC pieces in here, and of course it's been moved as the city expanded, and that prison kind of went in that place. And I released a unique build showing the prison build, and so if you want to check it out, go ahead and go into the unique builds playlist, and it's there. And as we come through this area here, we have a rest stop in the middle of the highway. It was featuring kind of the cinema, and we got a lot of biking on the left side here as well. People were kind of doing, there's a lot of biking in this city. Not a lot of transit, but there's a lot of biking. So now let's take a look at our second area. That would be the tiles to the right here. We have a nice steel bridge down by the river. We have a fish market and the ferry. We got a little, we'll call it an old castle sitting out here on a little island with the other, I think the other one's like a water fort. We put the water in first and we drained it away. So we have a strip mall on the right with some parking, and on the left we have our Modern City buildings. Once again, you can kind of see the rest stop in the middle, and we have a nice kind of like high density self-sufficient area here. The little park in the middle, kind of once again separating it, and we have Transit-wise, we have the cable car, we have bus, we have metro, kind of all right around that modern city building. And then in here we have kind of a mix of self-sufficient European suburbia and even like the vanilla. And as you can see, it kind of has a high density area right around the high school and kind of, you know, lessens out as it goes. Over on this side of the highway, we have a substation that we built, a little service area kind of coming off the highway with our three-way interchange. Another mixed density area with some higher apartment complexes, as well as, you know, some smaller, you know, houses and a little brick high density area as well. And we got, of course, our school, and then up on this tier we have some European suburbia mix with some of the building pieces where we're using like those corner pieces just to kind of make one building. And you can see here we got another like, kind of a apartment complex. Another example of kind of like a 4-lane road that winds up and down and all around, and we really didn't zone on it. It's more, like I said, an express ride to get to where you need to go. And of course you can see the elevated metro and the metro station in the background. We'll go and see that in a second. A lot of walking and biking to get across both sides of the road. And also another nice European high density area. And here we have another commercial area where we have our metro, a little natural reserve park on the mountain, and some office, and like I said, some commercial back here. Give our folks a place to go. We use the modern city just to create kind of like a large building to be like a main focal point. We use the unique building fountain as well. And here we try to do a kind of a gated community. You see the toll booths, see the fencing, and using the trade school more as though it's a gate, like I said, a gated community area where maybe the trade school main building is like the main building of like the gated community area, and you kind of come in and it's like I said, it's mostly self-sufficient building style in here because that blends really well with the trade school assets. Also use the key to elevate it and give us a wall, a retaining wall, and you can see in this nice big apartment complex kind of area we have one of the big buildings from the trade school, and we have some of the high density stuff that match it pretty well. We got some brown and browns, like the same blocky textures, the same kind of like window elements. And here we have you know, just a little bit more of the high density mixed up with, say, the dorms that are focused around what I think is a fountain there. Now as we expand it, we move down the map. So these were the first two areas. As we expand it, we worked our way towards the coast. You can see the ferry on the right. So we used ferry in this city. We used bus and metro and cable car. A little bit of tram. And I want to say that's about it. No train. No, I think a little bit of helicopter as well, because we ended up putting down the Metropolitan Airport. So here, like I said, you can see a lot of biking. We have our 4-stack 4-way interchange. One of the directions goes into our downtown area where it kind of splits down two main roads. It's Board Builder and Bob E.M. Boulevard. Got this nice kind of look through the archway, two archways really, and we're looking at our Capitol building. Nice little government area here in the center. And as you can see, our downtown is very grid-like. We got a lot of office buildings, kind of like sandwiched together, some high-density modern city. We got ferry, a lot of people walking and biking on the quay, so that looks great. We got ourselves some nice bridges in here, as well as we've got a little marina, and we got the anchovy, I want to say, fishing asset as well, just to have boats moving in and out. And as we kind of work our way away from like the downtown area, which has got really a mix of everything. You can see the density kind of peels away. And this is just a mix of the three different types: European, vanilla, North American, and self-sufficient. And we got a park kind of like in between, and some pathways and stuff for people to kind of walk around and get through the city and bike through the city without having to necessarily, you know, interact with that 6-lane road, the 4-lane road. Got ourselves a nice Art Deco area. Of course, in this area we're using bus and metro. You can see the sunken metro. And this is a little bit more detailed high school area. We have the gymnasium, elementary school, a little plaza, some nice pathing, and I think we have the climbing frame from the Park Life DLC stuff. And now as we go over here, we have like this kind of another mixed area of high and low density residential, with some bigger buildings kind of popping up around that plaza area. And it's kind of the same thing here. We got a couple of nice bigger high density North American style buildings around this outdoor study. Then kind of spread out around that is the some light density stuff. Of course, we have some nice bridges and everything kind of going up and over the highway. And we got a nice little turnaround spot for people to, you know, who come into our city and who don't want to be in our city. They can just leave. A couple nice interchanges. Highway and railroad are on the left side here, going up and over and through the mountain. Some really nice views in here with the bridges. Both the train bridges and the highway bridges, and there's some European bridges. Just see a school bus go down. Some nice rivers coming through here, some waterfalls coming out like this. Let's call this a lake. And of course, another interchange bringing folks in our downtown area. This connects to kind of like the two highways on the map. So in this map, you got to be kind of mindful that there's two highways that run in it. If you connect to it, connect highways to it, you're going to increase traffic. So just you know, be mindful of that. And of course, we have our dual trumpet interchange. It came out really well. And we got our trains. We have a little service area, another like little substation. I released a video. I think it's part of the unique builds of how to build like a power grid. And this is our residential area. Once again, you can tell I like the European suburbia mix. That's what we have here. Of course, higher density as we kind of work our way towards the river here in downtown. And as we get farther and farther out from this kind of like the core of the city, it's lighter and lighter density. Got a lot of nice bridges with European bridges and American style bridges from the content creator pack in here. Once again, we're using one of the big buildings from the trade school to kind of mix up in here. Got some plazas and parking lots and the high density modern city buildings, just to kind of give it like a nice big feel of everything kind of being together. Back here is a nice little quiet neighborhood tucked between the waterway and the highway. And as I mentioned before, there's a lot of bridges and bike bridges. You see a lot of folks on those bridges, and we're going to go ahead and take a look. See all the folks on the quays walking and biking around. Of course, we have ferry. Unfortunately, the ferries are about a mile below the piers, but sometimes it's a little hard to avoid, especially like on a map like this where the terrain is actually pretty high to start compared to the river level. And we got some nice bridges kind of coming through here. Like I said, you can see the ferry lines. They're moving some pretty good amount of people. Doing fairly well. Folks using the American style bridge. And that paired up really nice with the American bridge because they both kind of have that brick look to them. As well as it pairs up really well with the quay because there's like a stone quay that basically uses the same kind of like skin as the American style pillars. And on this side we have our cargo line on the left side, and you can see it's actually riding on the quay. We did a lot of that in the city. Some of the quays, they have like I say like no collision. Now of course you're on PC, you have anarchy and that kind of stuff. You can kind of do what you want with that kind of thing. But on console, you can't. Things have some people call it collision, some people call it a hitbox or kill box, and it's one of those things where you can't like overlap one thing on another. On the left side of the river here, we have another kind of like residential area tucked up against our amusement parks. We have an amusement park in the city. You can see it's got a pretty nice large parking lot area, as well as nice residents kind of around that. Here we got a nice colorful kind of high density buildings next to the airport, and of course another kind of like commercial area. And we did a unique hospital build on the left as well. And then between that and the mountain, as you can see, our metro, and our metro is kind of gliding on the concrete. And once again, you can kind of do that with some of the keys because they don't have like collision detection in certain spots. Then we have a little transit hub here. We have a nice train kind of tucked up against the mountain with the keys kind of acting as retention walls with one of the sunken metros. It's the bigger one. The cable cars in here, and there's also, I believe, a helicopter stop as well in here. Yep, I see it. There's a lot of transit going on here. So the outside train line runs through, and that's a bypass train station, and the outside trains will actually bypass, especially the cargo trains. Obviously they're not going to stop at a passenger or rail station, but it's cool to see them kind of fly through the middle as people are loading and unloading on the two side platforms. And here's the airport. It came out pretty nice. It was unfortunately I didn't capture the unique build that well in the video, so I didn't get to post that separate, but so it came out nice. We got the cargo airport and metropolitan airport. Some parking in here, some stadiums and stuff. This commercial areas, and then down here as we expanded the city, these like shoreline 3 tiles. We raised the seafloor and did a lot. This is where I did introduce DLC. Ended up being, you can see here's our oil industry on like almost like this pier. Got a lot of fishing. We got, of course, our oil drills on the right in the crater, and then behind here we have our oil industry. We have a slum, which I did post a unique build there for that, so you can kind of see how this was built. It's kind of like a lower income area, I guess, or a little poorer area of the city that you might find supporting like a large industrial area, like the oil industry that we have. We also have, of course, our farming. We have a nuclear power plant up and to the left here, we'll probably fly by, as well as our forestry is up and to the left as well. We brought the water in here. Of course, we got a little power plant, nice little factories and stuff behind maybe some processing for the fish. Our forestry industry is tucked up here on the mountain. And that came out really nice. I like how the extractors blend in with the trees. And here's our nuclear power plant. That was a really fun build. Once again, unfortunately, didn't get a good capture of that, so I didn't get to post that individually. But of course, we'll be doing more as we go. Our farming area, and I really like using kind of like the farming as like this blocks. Unfortunately, on the snow map, all you get is the greenhouses. And once again, another example of a high-speed road that doesn't actually have any zoning on it. It gives the opportunity to kind of give it some ups and downs and all arounds. Here's a little closer look at the power plant and the river in here. A little flyby of our forestry industry. It's got a mix of some of the yellow forestry as well as the DLC. So and then we built a port. So we have some fishing in here, as well as the harbor, cargo harbor hub that you see sticking out. We got just some assets in here that are set to fill some of the stuff from the DLCs, as well as a lot of our unique factories are back here. Another little, and we also have another service area back here, and you can see the train line kind of sneaking through and coming to this cargo station in here. And we used, of course, the zoning to give us those blocks. A lot of traffic in this area. I mean, I knew it was going to be that way, but it's moving okay. Like I said, we got a lot of our harbor, which is also, you can see on our port, we have a lot of, like I said, unique factories. So it's got a really cool kind of like big building feel in here. It does look really nice and big. And it's a shame we couldn't quite get the downtown right up against it, but it's pretty close. And like I said, we got the rail bringing it in, so that's fine as well. Because maybe our downtown, we don't want our huge, sea traffic and stuff to kind of come into that part of the city. Then we have our ore industry on the right here. Yeah, did some detailing. I missed a few spots I could see, but that's, the city's never really done, right? And if you guys have been playing long enough, there's always a tree you can plant, a rock you can put, a path you can run, a fence you can place. Just like I said, never done. You see our turbine interchange. And then down here, the last tile that we kind of worked on was this tile up against the mountain where we kind of built a ski village, I guess you could call it, in here in the ski resort area. And that's probably one of the better things I've built in City Skylines, and it looks amazing. It's a shame we don't, once again, have more than 9 tiles. I would have loved to have done this on the grand scale of doing the whole entire mountain range and having a bunch of trails. But as it stands, you probably have, I don't know, 10 or 15 trails in here now. And it looks good, and it's an example of kind of what you have the potential to do, if you want to do it. And of course, there's a unique build video on how we built the ski resort. And also in our ski village area, there's a nice, unique cemetery, and it was a cemetery build, and of course that was also posted as well, so that the individual, which oddly enough I got a dislike on. I hardly ever get any dislikes on my videos. I just don't know I asked my wife, what's wrong with that? This video, it's just building a cemetery. Someone didn't like it, I guess. Didn't leave a comment why. Now we have a lot of cable car running through here, and once again, of course, we have a lot of biking. We have our transfer station for our cargo train. I always recommend building that on console to kind of separate your internal line from the outside line. You can see the train lines going through here. Well, you can take time to go over some of the stats of the city. Those interesting stats are health. Obviously, no one's sick in the city, which is good. I encourage you to build a city where no one gets sick. Our elementary school, all our school systems is doing fine. We have enough schools and stuff down to meet the eligibility needs. Our unemployment's 5%, which is pretty much on par. Our births are greater than our deaths, which is good. Land value, I would say, is a little on the lower side at 48 for the whole city. Of course, we have pockets of high land value. Importing, we're importing about 200 units of stuff. We're exporting about almost 7,000 units of stuff. So it looks good. So we're making money exporting. Transit numbers aren't great, I would say. 5,700 citizens, 34. I'd say 34 is probably appropriate for the amount of tourists we're bringing in. And I typically see with our transit numbers, we'll say 5% of our total population is tourists. Around 10 to 15% would be our normal citizens. So I would expect, if our transit was doing, we'll say, if we wanted to have a benchmark on our transit, I would expect to have somewhere closer to 7,000 to 10,000 citizens using our transit, and roughly, probably right about where we are, 3,400 is appropriate for our tourists using it. But that being said, just because I'm an experienced player, I know my numbers aren't terrible, and I know the reason behind the lower performing numbers of my transit system. It's not that my transit system's necessarily bad or there's something wrong or something I need to fix, because it's lower than that 10 or 15%. I have a lot of biking and walking, so people aren't using the transit. But my traffic's good. it was like 88%. We'll say if you're above like 85% traffic, and you know you have some good biking and walking in the city, and then your transit numbers are, they're more like 5 to 10% instead of like 10 to 15%. I mean, I would be satisfied with that. The traffic's good. People are just happen to be walking and biking instead of using the transit system, which is totally fine. You can use the city park gates to charge them, make some money that way instead of making money off the ticket prices of your transit. So I wouldn't get too worried about that. Our garbage processing is pretty good. I'd say you can see that we've got in this city kind of little pods of service. I always like to build those instead of like a centralized area. It just seems like it just works a lot better. Doesn't necessarily mean that the services are going to operate in their close vicinity. We'll say they will still drive all over, but it gives you the better chance, I guess, that they will serve the local area. And if I had to guess, I would say we're running roughly 2 recycle centers for every 1 landfill. And of course, you see here our land pollution's 4.7 and our drinking is 0. Drinking should always be 0. Someone tried to argue with me on Reddit once that no, it can be 1 or 2. No, it can't. Well, it can be whatever you want it to be, but you're going to have 6 citizens. 0 will mean you don't have 6 citizens, which is good. So you can see here our noise pollution isn't too bad as well, and a lot of our noisy stuff is away from our residents. Once again, something that kind of trips people up and makes people have sick people in their city is they tend to zone high density commercial next to high density residential, and we give them a little bit of space, a little bit of breathing room. We have heat in the city as well. Of course, the winter map. I tend to operate my heating in such a way that my power budget and my water budget stay about the same. You can see it's 22,000, 21,000 here. So in this case, if I was running up against an issue with electricity, I would add more heating to unburden electricity until they get to 22 and 22. Our weekly visitors or tourists, about 3,000, attractiveness 85%. That's not bad. For a city this size, 72,000, and what we've kind of done, I would expect something around 3,000 to 4,000 tourists. Is it right? I mean, of course, you can go higher if you want, put more unique buildings down and the like. But for what we've done, I think that's about right. And budget-wise, I guess we're making most of our money from Industries DLC. You can see a couple $100,000 a week from that. Park Life DLC is giving us some money, not a lot. Our campus is giving us a pretty decent amount of money, about $100,000 a week. And we're making some decent money on tours, $20,000 a week. Our tax income is low, but that's expected because we're starting to get up in the money. As you can see here, I put our budget at 101%. And I recommend you do that because that gives you like 1 extra vehicle for a lot of your services, your industry DLC buildings, all that stuff for just 1% extra budget. So I recommend you do that. Of course, our taxes are at 12% because, that's what we can put them at. Well, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you, something to look at as far as a city on the Frozenshire map. And maybe some ideas or inspiration on, ways to build the city. A couple different kind of like unique features in this city that might inspire you. Once again, a lot of those I have individual videos on under the unique building playlist. Just click on my name and it'll take you right there. It's no problem. But the city was a lot of fun to build. It's a little bit smaller city than I'm used to building. It's about 75,000 citizens, but we have a lot of green spaces in here and a little bit more challenging terrain as well. And if you like what you see, consider leaving a thumbs up. Subscribing, becoming a member of the NBC family. As well, if you want to interact with me and say hi, down below is my Twitch page. You go there and follow, and then you'll get notified next time I'm on. Come say hi, tell me what you're doing in your cities. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it provides you with inspiration, or what not to do. As well as, I always wish you guys to be successful in your city building, whatever that success may be for you. And as always, happy building.